guys, today we're going to be talking about the solar plexus, the chakra that has everything to do with you. It is one of the survival centers. As a recap, root chakra is the survival center that has to do with a community, your family, a large group of people. The one above that, the sacral, is all about those one-on-one relationships. And then the solar plexus is all about you. How do you view yourself, your personal power, your willpower, your personality, your ego, and all that fun stuff. This is where your badass, authentic self comes in. So if you are new here, welcome. My name is Samantha. I'm a holistic practitioner, and I'm also a mindset coach. And the purpose of this channel is to help you understand about this thing called energy. How does it work? How can you use it so you can step into your power and level up your life? So we are rocking, this is the only yellow piece of clothing that I have. It is a hoodie of good old Cleveland Cavaliers. I don't follow the Cavs anymore. Once I got my ring in, I think 2016, I was kind of happy I was settled and I kind of moved on. So
this center is all about you and how you view yourself and your body. Are you your biggest cheerleader or your biggest critic? Well, if you're mean to yourself, it's going to be reflected into your body. So whatever this chakra governs is where you're going to notice some blocks, imbalances, and things just aren't working as they should be. And it's all about the perception of you. What relationship do you have with money, yourself, your body, relationships, all that has to do with you? So the limiting belief that has to do with you. Do you feel like you're good enough? How's your self-esteem? Do you have that confidence? Do you believe you're deserving of amazing things? That's what this chakra is all about. And it's all about, going after those challenges head on. That's when it's really activated, when you stand up for yourself, when you stand firm and you're confident in your decisions and things that have to do with you, especially doing things that scare you. What are things in your life that you want to do, but it terrifies you? Now, I'm not talking about like fighting a bear or wrestling a bear or any animal of that sort, but following your passions. Who do you want to be? What are your goals? What are your dreams? Do you want to open your own business, but you're afraid like, what if you fail? Well, stop saying you fail, go after it, overcome it, and start living your best life. This is also about being more proactive than reactive. Whenever we see things in our lives or someone says something to us, we see something in our environment, we tend to react to it and we usually spiral. This is called like your limiting beliefs. But we are responsible for our feelings, our emotions, and our thought patterns. So every time we get triggered by something outside of ourselves, it is a shadow of ourselves that's coming up. It is the past that's coming forward that we need to start letting go. We have to start healing from our past and letting it go. When we identify as someone who has trauma, or we have the victim mentality, or everything bad always happens to me, whenever something good happens, something bad happens, I can never be good in relationships, people always leave me, money is hard to find, whatever that is, what do you identify as? Do you identify as a victim, or do you identify yourself as a warrior? Because based on who you identify, and I know it's not as clear as like black and white, I get it, but who do you identify? Are you letting your past control your present moment and your future? Because if we can't let go of the past and identify with things in the past, we're going to be that person and we're going to see that in the future. We're going to attract more circumstances that are based on our past. So we keep reliving the past. Who you identify is who you become and is what is reflected to you. And this can be anything. Do you identify as someone who is good in relationships, someone who is lovable, someone who is everybody's favorite person? It's all about those limiting beliefs that have to do with you. Who do you identify as? And a lot of times it's paying attention to your thoughts. What are you constantly saying to yourself? That will give you a little insider view, tidbit of what you're running and your limiting beliefs. So before I had mentioned triggers. Triggers are usually something from the past. It's something that the ego, which is part of the solar plexus, the ego personality, it is something that the ego is trying to protect you from. You're living in the past because something bad happened to you in the past, whether you got hurt in a bad relationship, you got vulnerable, whatever it is. And if you get a hint of something familiar, you see something that reminds you of the past, your ego believes it's going to happen again, and its job is to protect you. So it creates these intense emotions, these thought patterns, physical pains, if you feel nauseous, anything like that, to get you out of that situation. That's where the anger comes in. You get triggered by something, you get angry, and you're like, this is constantly happening to me. I can never get ahead. Why do people keep treating me this way? Instead of just being like, okay, what is my ego trying to protect me from? What is going on? What in my environment is similar to something in the past that I have not resolved yet? Is it something someone said? Is it something that I felt, experienced, saw? You really have to start asking yourself questions. You have to start investigating your trigger, your ego. What is my ego trying to protect me from? And so when you keep asking the question, why is this triggering me? What about the situation is triggering me? You start to peel back the layers, the hidden root cause or hidden meaning as to what your ego is trying to protect you from. Now, we don't have to go to the past, because usually it's just an emotional theme, some limiting belief. So maybe it is vulnerability. Vulnerability is like a big deal for you. And trust me, I know this because like vulnerability has been something that I have struggled with in the past. So I know all about that. So whenever you get a hint of vulnerability, you're going to self-sabotage, you're going to freak out. Your ego takes control. So it's all about resolving and changing the story of who you are. You get a trigger, figure out what the root cause is, and start changing the story. So if you are vulnerable and vulnerability is just not your cup of tea, be like, it is safe and secure for me to be vulnerable. That is the past. We don't have to worry about that. Let's leave it in the past. I am safe and secure. It is strong for me to be vulnerable. People love when I'm vulnerable. I feel safe when I am vulnerable. Whatever you need to say to make you feel good, to calm the ego down, you say it. And then every time your ego starts to rise with those intense emotions, the ego starts knocking on your door, you want to de-escalate it, be like, it's okay, that was the past, everything's cool, calm, we're great. Being vulnerable is safe. This is not the past. We can be vulnerable. It's healthy to be vulnerable. It actually makes me strong to be vulnerable. Also, with identifying who you are, if you start identifying, like changing your thought patterns and start thinking, if I was a confident person, if I was a lovable person or someone who was good enough and deserving, how would I act? How would I feel? What would my thinking patterns be? And that's all about becoming that version. You start becoming that version by acting like that person, by thinking like that person, and everything will fall into place. And then the past version of yourself will melt away. The chakra is also about being true to yourself. Staying true to your word. Do you tell yourself that in the morning I'm going to get up and work out, and you get up and you decide, no, I don't want to work out, I just want to stay in bed? You're breaking your promise to yourself. You have to start being honest with yourself and keeping your word. If you say you're going to go to the gym in the morning, then you have to go to the gym in the morning. If you can't stay true to your word, to yourself, how do you expect to do it with other people? Now let's get into what the solar plexus chakra governs. The stomach, liver, gallbladder, kidneys, large intestines, most of the muscular system, adrenal glands, pancreas, diaphragm, and the skin. So if you notice that whenever your ego steps in with those self-sabotaging tendencies, your stomach starts to hurt, your intestines start to hurt. You get into that fight, flight, or freeze with the adrenal glands. So that is, your ego is like your helicopter mom. It is the antivirus of your mind, just trying to protect you. Here are the signs of a beautiful, aligned, balanced solar plexus chakra. Feeling balanced, good self-esteem, balanced ego, warmth in personality, feeling confident, feeling playful and enjoying life, courage and trust, self-respect, care to self and others, mental clarity, curiosity, awareness, personal power, purpose, and empowerment. So this chakra is definitely all about self-respect, treating yourself well, you don't want to keep putting yourself down. You do not want to criticize yourself. You want to be your biggest cheerleader and have a wonderful relationship with the ego. A lot of people say that there is the death of the ego when you're going through the dark night of the soul. For me, I think it's just, you're not really killing the ego. You're just taking the control back from your ego, and it's learning to work with the ego, understanding that your ego is just there to protect you. It does not want to harm you, even though some of its tendencies to protect you might seem a little harmful. The self-sabotaging, the anger, the outbursts, the running away. You know what I'm talking about. But it truly is trying to protect you. So it's all about, handling that ego, working around it, working together, identifying that it's just bringing things to the surface that you're holding on to the past. And that's all it is. And you can think of it as the past version of yourself, a little kid or a friend who's just coming up afraid, wanting to protect you, and you just have to de-escalate it and change the story. So now let's talk about some of the ways that your solar plexus can start becoming unaligned. It can be being controlled. Your sense of freedom is taken away. You have no personal honor and no self-respect. You throw yourself down, you criticize yourself, you are willing to let people walk all over you instead of putting yourself first and respecting yourself and being true to your word, which goes along with seeking the approval of others. You are looking for validation from outside people instead of looking for validation of within yourself. If you think that you're doing a fantastic job, then you're doing a fantastic job. You don't need people outside of yourself to tell you you're doing great. If you are looking outside of yourself for approval, and you don't get it, you can spiral into depression, anxiety, and you can be very mean to yourself. So be your biggest cheerleader. And another one, which is probably the heaviest and the lowest emotion you could probably feel, is shame. Feelings of shame can block and unalign this solar plexus chakra. Now let's get into the signs and symptoms of a blocked or imbalanced solar plexus chakra. Starting with the psychological symptoms and blocks. We have anxiety, low self-esteem, jealousy, controlling behaviors, competitiveness, lack of confidence, insecurity, feeling trapped, not free, lack of integrity, no sense of self, not being authentic, losing touch with your true beauty, fearful, low self-trust, victim mentality, aggressive behavior, excessive hunger for power, self-centered, narrow-minded, seeking approval from people, fear of rejection, and struggling to set boundaries. That's a lot heavy, but it all has to do with self. Who do you identify as? As a victim? Do you believe you're confident? Do you believe you're deserving? Do you believe you're good enough? If you have those limiting beliefs of those or anything similar to that, it can really affect your solar plexus chakra. Now let's talk about the physical symptoms of unalignment. Ulcers, diabetes, blood sugar disorders, constipation, addiction, poor memory, eating disorders, so anorexia, bulimia, or overeating, liver dysfunction, arthritis, adrenal dysfunction, fatigue, excess weight around the stomach, bloating, spleen issues, and kidney issues. So when you're talking about the weight around your stomach, your midsection, that can be where we're storing our trauma, we're trying to protect ourselves, creating that layer in between us and other people. So now that we know all of that, how can you keep your solar plexus chakra open and aligned, or how do you get it open and aligned? The biggest one is being your authentic self. Stop worrying about what other people think about you. Who cares? And I know it's easier said than done, but we only get one life. We spend too much time worrying about what other people think about ourselves, where we stay in a job that we hate. Maybe we're in a relationship that we just don't like. We're in a situation that we don't like. Maybe we aren't even being our true selves, speaking up for ourselves because we're afraid people won't like our true self. So we'd rather be miserable than have a few people not like us or have an opinion about us. It's not a way to live. And we get so much in our head about what other people think, we create this narrative and this assumption that when we actually become ourselves, become our authentic selves, go after the passions that we crave, or the business that we want to get into, or the career that we want to get into, or the business that we want to create, we realize that these people, we are so fearful of their opinions, are our biggest supporters. And then sometimes if there are people who don't like who we truly are or don't support us with the things that we like, then why do we want them in our lives anyways? So we have to start being our authentic self. Again, baby steps. I get it. You know, your ego's probably going to freak out. So just start sticking up for yourself. Or if you are really passionate about Dungeons and Dragons, maybe start putting a game together, invite your friends, and if they think it's silly, just be like, just try it, it might be fun. Or find a group in your community who does Dungeons and Dragons. Just an example. So who are you and what do you want? And start making personal choices that align with that person. Start having integrity, but mostly with yourself. Be true to your word. If you say you're gonna do something, do it, whether it's with other people or yourself. We have to identify what we're holding on to the past, and we need to heal from it and find ways to let it go. Because all we're doing is we're keeping it alive by keeping it in our present moment, and then we are going to see the same thing happen in our future. So whatever you need to do to heal that part, let's let it go. We're not meant to hold on to things from the past. We're meant to feel every sensation. This goes back to the sacral chakra. We're meant to feel everything in the present moment and let it go. But our solar plexus are the ones that we kind of hold on to it, and that's with our ego. It's just trying to protect us, and it wants us to survive. And this is kind of a cool one. There is no time and space. So your intention is very powerful. So what you say goes. So you can just say, I set the intention that my solar plexus chakra is open. You can visualize it. Boom, it is open. Very simple. You can wear yellow. That will open up your solar plexus. And then there are healing frequencies. There's energy healing, eating yellow foods. And one of the best and terrifying ones is start taking risks. Not the crazy one like financial risk. You know the risks that I'm talking about. So taking risks means getting out of your comfort zone. Try something new. If you always wanted to go skydiving, do it. If you always wanted to try Dungeons and Dragons, do it. If you wanted to go to the bar alone, do it. If you wanted to go to the movies alone, do it. Whatever that means to you, whatever you're excited about but nervous to try, do it. You're going to feel alive, and you're gonna feel like you're on top of the world. Go out in the sun. Now, if you are a redhead and going out in the sun will cause you to burn up, maybe just like little tidbits. I have 2 sisters who are redheads, so I know about that life. But start going into the sun more, maybe take some vitamin D pills. I don't know, but whatever that means to you. If you can't go in the sun, then don't go in the sun. But if you can, go out in the sun for 10 minutes. Get those rays, those healing rays in there. And lastly, start having a mental diet. Start identifying what limiting beliefs you have about yourself that no longer serve you. If you feel like you're undeserving and you feel like you're not good enough, let's change the story. Start becoming the version of yourself you want to be. Start making a list of the person you want to be. How do they act? How do they think? How do they walk? What do they do in certain situations? Start becoming that person. And whenever your ego or the old programming starts coming up throughout the day, say, no, I'm actually this person. Would the new version of myself be worrying about this? Would the new version of myself be having these thoughts? No. So the solar plexus chakra is all about you, boo. It is all about being your authentic self, taming the ego, realizing that your ego is just there to protect you, and it's just showing a part of yourself that isn't healed. Work through it. Whenever you get a trigger, do the best that you can to figure out what the cause is. What is the emotional theme? What is the theme? What limiting belief do you have? And start changing the story. Start becoming the version of yourself you want to be. How do they think? How do they act? Who are they? And over time, you will start becoming that version. Overcoming shame. If you got shame from your past and you're holding on to a lot of shame, you have to work through it. That's the same thing with the triggers. You have to start healing yourself from the past. It might take a couple days, it might take a couple months, it doesn't matter. Go at your own pace. Start sticking up for yourself. Start doing things that make you nervous and, the things that are outside of your comfort zone, and start being your biggest cheerleader. Celebrate the small victories. Celebrate everything in your life. Start celebrating you, because there is no one like you. So thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.